Um, all right. So just getting things set up here, but I'm really excited to have a chance to speak with you, Ev. And before we get started, just really quickly, I've known you for quite some time, and just to sort of recap for everybody a bit of your background. Certainly, you've sat in CEO positions and managing partner seats. But let's just have you sort of quick introduction from yourself, because I think this is a real interesting conversation about hiring, about building culture. So Ev, I'll let you just introduce yourself to everybody. Would be great.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I did most of my career in the creative agency side of the business. Started at Sidley, spent most of my career there, left Montreal to come to Toronto when we opened the office. So really built it from the ground up. And then left Sidley about 4 years ago to join Omnicom, where I had the opportunity to join three different iconic brands and bring them together to create a whole new brand in the market under TBWA Canada. And yeah, that's me.
Okay, fantastic. And you know, when I speak about sort of hiring, as you know, in my world, and certainly in the last while, I've really been focused a lot about talking about you know, it's not easy to build an exceptional team. Like it's not easy to build a high performance team. Everyone speaks about it. Everyone wants to do it. When I meet people and I say, hey, how often have you experienced that, just the magic of an incredible team, the right people in the right organization, fitting the right culture and the right seats? Can we just start with that? In your career, have you experienced that? And then have you also been part of building that? And do you agree in terms of the uniqueness of that?
Yeah, I think I was really, really privileged. I had the chance to be part of this. I think the way Sidley was built, both in Montreal and Toronto, we were, especially in Toronto, we were able to build it from the ground up, right? We opened on day one, it was eight of us, and we were really, really mindful about who we were adding to our team as we were building a culture that already existed in other cities. So it was interesting where we were building on something that existed, but a little bit of our own Toronto flavor. And I think we were really successful in that and created something very special. And then on the other side, I joined an organization that had been around for decades, first with DDB. So you're joining a culture that already exists. At the time when I joined, it was a bit of a transformation play. So it was understanding what's really important and core to what DDB was, and then how we wanted to evolve it and what values were important, what skill sets were important, the people in place, were they sharing those values and ambition? And as we were growing and adding people, again, making sure we selected the right people to do this transformation. But I think, and Ari, we had this conversation, like transforming a culture is like, it's really difficult. Because it's change and it's change management, right? You're introducing new elements to people who are already there, and you're introducing different people to the team. So you have to do a lot of change management.
How difficult is it when you're stepping into an organization that obviously it has its culture, there's certain sort of ways in which they're hiring. How do you step in? And is it like a real significant effort that the exec team are like, listen, this isn't going to change overnight, but how long can it take to kind of go and hire some of the right people to make an impact? And then frankly, my next question is really, is it possible when you think about one A player, one all-star that you
Yeah. I'll start with your second question. I don't think it's just one person. The culture is the sum, for me, is the sum of everybody who's around there. And I think leadership is key. I think you have to live the values, like truly. It's not just about paying lip service. So for me, you kind of start at the top, but it's not just one. Like at your top team, your leadership team needs to embrace the ambition and the values. And then you go down, and I think you can mold, right? You can explain your vision, you can explain your ambition, you can explain the values, you give a chance to people to shift. But one person's not, I don't think, is going to do that. And I think there's a great um, it's a football quote, which is the standard is the standard. And for me, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers coach that has it. And I always quote it because it's what you accept, right? So you can hire the best people, but if you have a few people that, they don't live up to the standard and you just accept it, you're never going to be able to build that culture. So you have to be very mindful and very overt on like, this is not acceptable here. And this culture might not be for you, right? Those are hard conversations, but conversations that I think are necessary as you're trying to build or transform, right?
So this is like these are colossally big efforts is my point. And I think you're saying that you're stepping in and it could be a lot of time, but it's important from the top down to be really making sure that you have the right people in place. My comment about
Mm-hmm.
that one hire was actually it's its own question, which would really be, is there an example in your mind that you're like, you know what, I was able to bring one individual in that actually helped change a lot of the trajectory of our business. Maybe it was a very specific senior person who was going to come in to really make change, or maybe it was an individual running a department where I agree culture is built and success across many people. But
Yeah,
is there
yeah,
one
yeah, yeah.
example that comes to mind or a couple examples? Can that happen?
Yeah, I think I have a few. Yeah, I think I have a few. Because again, it's like one brick at a time, right? So you're not going to go and change everybody, but every individual you bring in is going to have an impact on the culture of either the department and the overall organization, right? So I think it's always having that lens of, I want to transform department X. I'm going to bring in this person that has a very different energy, that has a very different background, that has worked in very different ways. I think what's important for that person to succeed is for us to also prep the team, right? We're going to make a shift. We hired this person because of those reasons. We expect them to make a difference. You don't want the organism to reject that new person, and you want to set them up for success. But yeah, for sure, I've seen single individual come in and make a huge impact on the culture one at a time.
And how would you sort of speak to the audience, speak to those that are in, senior positions around hiring? What separates sort of a real A player from someone who's great on paper? Like for you, what was it? How would you determine whether
Yeah,
someone is actually going to be, a top performer in your world?
I think it's two things. The first one for me is shared ambition. So, you can have the best person on paper, but as you talk to them, there has to be a hunger for the same ambition as you're trying to set, right? They have to want it just as much as you do. And then again, I'm going to go back to the standard is the standard, but really clear understanding of the standards of the organization and having them live those standards again, not just pay lip service to them. But if you have those two things, I think it's a real winning recipe for having an A player and making sure, like with two people with the same resume and amazing experience, one of them may be much more aligned to your ambition and your standards.
How much of your time is spent thinking about your team, thinking about people issues and challenges, how to improve, how to, uncover or manage issues and get through? Like, how much of the world of business, especially in the creative industry, is around people?
And I think for me, especially in the creative industry, my product is my people. We can talk about AI, it's a whole other topic, but to this day, the best idea, the most original work is going to come out of people's brain and heart. So it's our most important asset, and you want them, like, I see my job as setting the stage for them to do the best work of their career, right? So what does setting the stage mean? It's having the right environment, it's having the right colleague, it's being motivated. I think I'm a big believer in permission to fail, safe space, right? Where you can bring things that have never been done before and we're going to discuss it and we're going to take a chance. And so, yeah, I mean, 95+% of my time is really thinking about my people and how I can make a difference for them. So that makes a difference for us. And I think we talked about it. I think in the world of AI, people who have empathy are really also going to stand out. And I think, as a leadership team, is empathy for your team and what they're going through. But I think as a business is empathy for your clients. So in the professional services, our clients are more B2B. But we want to also think about the clients of our clients, so the consumers, right? So I think that's going to be a very important asset for people to develop as they grow in their career.
So you mentioned empathy, and I know that that's a part of your sort of leadership and approach, and sort of a bit of how would you describe yourself in terms of how you are building culture and some of the things that are really important to you when you look at building your teams?
I think people would say that I'm high energy. I think I set very high standards and ambition. I want us to shoot for the moon. I'm also somebody that's very close to everybody. Like I roll up my sleeve. I enjoy seeing people. I enjoy talking to people. I want to know what people are working on. I want to be there to help them and support them. And I said culture starts with the leadership team, but we can't set the culture by ourselves either. Like I want to hear from the ground up, what do people need? Uh, because I grew up in a different time and maybe my needs were different. So it's important for me that we have a two-way dialogue, and I try to make myself as available as possible. Open door policy, because literally I did not have a door in my last job. I was sitting on the open floor and I was just like, talk to me, right? I want to see what's happening. But very, very collaborative, I think, very open to learning. I think, also in the creative industry, like curiosity is key. So, you're curious for your client's business problem, but as a leader, you're curious about your team, because that's what I spend so much time doing. So I'm curious about what they need and how I can make their work life better.
Got it. Um, Looking back, I think a lot of times we learn from our mistakes, of course. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a common approach. We talk a lot about it. When you think about hiring mistakes, how has that shaped sort of how you view talent, today?
Yeah, I think there's two mistakes that I've made, or I've made two things that I've reflected on in the past. I think there's a point where we were hiring a lot by referrals, and then we ended up being in the same group of people. As a lot of people that had the same experiences, that were hanging out on the weekend. So it created a very interesting, not diverse enough team. So for me, although referrals are important from your team, I think it's really important to try to find people that are coming from different backgrounds. And then the other thing I would say is, I think when you hire in your leadership team, it's such important roles. And I think what I've learned is really taking the time to understand the strengths and weaknesses of my team and defining complementary, like what am I looking for that new person? What's important? What's a mitigation plan if the person doesn't have something? Or there's going to be maybe a potential for conflict and, management style, personality styles, and then onboarding. And I think we don't spend enough time on onboarding, especially at the leadership level. Really making sure that we accompany both the existing team and the new person into that journey, because again, it's change. And you hire this person for some reasons, right? You may want change. You may want their different point of view. So you have to I think we have to be more overt and have a lot more conversation around what success looks like and what we expect. So I think that's probably a big one. Like I've seen too many times leaders come in and they're amazing leaders. Like we chose them for a reason. And then again, the organism just rejects them. Because I think we didn't put enough effort in bringing them up to speed. And often, like, I've also been in organizations where the culture is very implicit. You just know because we've been doing this for 15 plus years together. So as a new person, you're like, well, where's my written code, right? I haven't been here for 20 years. What does it mean? What is the way? So I think the discipline of putting the implicit more explicit and writing your code. It's hard, but I think it's necessary for successful leadership onboarding.
So that's the part on onboarding for you. It makes a lot of sense. And I think that a lot of companies rush to hire. A lot of my clients, I speak to them a lot about, listen, everyone wants to make that hire quickly. They want to see, growth and success, and they feel like they want to move very fast. And I feel like a lot of times you have to slow down to then move fast. You need to do the right things. So you hire
Yeah.
slowly, fire fast, hire slow, fire fast. It's
Yes.
usually the opposite for many people or like in many companies. So the onboarding, I
Yes.
totally appreciate that is a very important part of introducing a senior person into the company, et cetera, and into the culture. Um, so a question for you, because I recently gave a talk to a bunch of founders about hiring and the things that founders don't see and the things they may not know. And it's a lot about bias. It's a lot about sort of the unconscious, subconscious sort of biases that people have or patterns. People, like you said, may choose to hire certain people that are on referral because they know them, they're cool, they hang out, they're good people, but the sort of instincts around this, whether it's gut instincts, seem to come up a lot. And my view is that it's very different when we talk about people because your gut instinct is emotional. And we're talking about people, and your instincts relating to people are a lot of your own biases, your own patterns of your upbringing and what's comfortable for you. Are there examples that you've faced where you're like, you recognized a particular hiring pattern for yourself or a particular pattern of, oh, geez, you know what? I am now more conscious to this, but I've been making these sort of hires, and that's just because of what is maybe my gut instinct, which isn't, can you speak to that? Does that,
Yeah,
does it come
yeah, yeah.
across
Yeah,
you?
I definitely have that. I think everybody does. I look for people that are similar to me, probably like very entrepreneurial. I look for people who put themselves outside of their zone of comfort, who are go-getters, who have done things differently. And I think it's important to have some of these people within like my agencies or companies. I think what I came to realize though is there needs to be a balance. And in new business terms, we talk often about farmers and hunters, and the best organizations are going to have both. So you cannot have 100% of highly entrepreneurial go-getters outside of the zone of comfort. But that's definitely my bias. So if I meet 5 people, the person that's the most pushing the boundaries is the one I'm going to gravitate towards, which is why I try to do hiring committees, because everybody comes in with their own bias. So then we can all sit together and be like, okay, here's a person I think is best for the role. Here's a person you think is best. Why? And then we can discuss like the need. You go back to the need of the organization and the team and then try to separate your bias from it. But it's the hardest thing to do.
I love the idea of sort of the hiring committee. It makes a lot of sense. Do you always involve others when it comes to big hiring decisions? Like, what would be your sort of approach?
Yes. Yes. It's always 2 or 3, maybe 4, depending, but there's always a few people meeting. I always want to do in person. I think, as much as I love that we can do everything remote these days, I think you get a better sense for the people when you actually meet face to face. But yeah, for big hires, even more junior hires, I would say we always have a few people meeting them.
So beyond the pieces that, you see for yourself around hiring those that are high energy and entrepreneurial, are there certain other personality traits that you've witnessed either in yourself that you're like, you know what, I'm sort of feeling biased towards these types of individuals who may not have served the business? Maybe this was early on in your career when maybe you've made hires or made mishires, or maybe you've witnessed this from your team where you're like, wow, you know what, it seems like they're hiring perhaps for what's comfortable and not for what's best for the business. Have you encountered that?
Specific examples of that. I think one of the thing I've said to a lot, and I think what's important for leaders too, is really understand your culture and really understand who's going to succeed in that culture. So I'll give you an example. Something that I used to say to every new hire was, um, we're gonna, we're most likely going to buy into any ideas you're going to bring to the table, right? If you have a suggestion, we're going to be like, yes. go do it. Like, actually just start doing it without telling us. I've seen a lot of people leave the organization and in their exit interview would say, I had all these ideas, but nobody asked me. And I was like, oh, it's very interesting. Because the people were like the people that are waiting for to be asked are probably not a right fit for us because we don't stop to ask. And then could we change our culture? Yeah, maybe, but it's a lot harder to change a culture with like hundreds of employees than to find the people. So then I was much more mindful in hiring people of like, you have to be someone who is comfortable proactively doing things without your boss asking or even probably without permission of your boss. So there's probably been a few mishire on that because I've heard that feedback of people leaving enough time that I was like, I need to be very overt when people start around what the need is there.
Got it. I think that's a great example. Question again, sort of around founders and executives, maybe our sort of last question to kind of tie it together.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, you've hired a lot of people, you've built some great successful teams, you've been part of transformations, you know, you've seen a lot in your career. Where do the executive teams and the cultures that haven't been successful, like where do you see the mistakes that are being made from your vantage point, whether it's like a view out into other cultures or maybe advice for other executives or founders when it comes to hiring and building the right culture? Everyone's trying to figure out how to do this. And, you know, a lot of things I'm interested in are a lot about themselves and some of these biases and helping them uncover some of these negative patterns and also a reflection on their culture. I'm coming at it from my view of like looking in, talking to people who may have worked there or reading Glassdoor reviews, putting together sort of all this understanding, but looking under the hood. What would you tell or an executive or founder about building culture and hiring and how they can do
Yeah,
that
yeah,
more
yeah.
successfully?
I think probably 2 points on two different levels. I think at the leadership team, I really don't think we invest enough in our leadership team and forming the connection and having them understand the different style of leaders around the table and how to best interact with each other. I think that's definitely something in my career that I haven't seen enough. Like the professional development of creating um, the best performing team. I think you can have amazing individual players, but if you don't put the time to create that synergy and that cohesion, but also the how do you handle conflict? Because there's going to be conflict, and I think I've seen a lot of leadership team where we're not comfortable. We're not comfortable facing the conflict. We're not comfortable agreeing or disagreeing with each other. We shy away from those conversations and it just festers, right? So I would say, and the advice I give myself, like moving forward as well, is like, let's make sure that we invest enough in our team and have the hard conversation and bring in the external help to do that. Cause it's hard as a leader to do that yourself. You need somebody that's external to help you have those conversations. So there's one. And I think the other thing is, we talked about bias, and I think fit has a bad rep right now, right? We don't want to hire on fit because it's against diversity. I think there's a lot of that equation that's happening right now. I also believe that every culture is not for everybody. So I do think that there's a bit of a fit there, and I think you can have a fit but a very diverse team. Like I think for me, a high performing team is a team that has a very diverse breadth of thinking and lived experience, but it doesn't mean that it's for everybody. And I think it's important to recognize like really what your culture is and the type of people that are gonna succeed in it on one side. And I think as an employee, it's also on you. Like it's also on you as an employee to say, hey, this is not the type of culture that is the right fit for me. And it's okay. there will be a culture somewhere, like even within the same industry. Like if we think of creative industry, there are many different types of cultures, and it's okay that culture A is not for you, and maybe culture B is more for you. I think we have to have more of that conversation and maybe empower more the employees to decide whether it's for them or not. So yeah, that's what I would say on that.
That sounds great. No, I appreciate it. I think these were some great insights, and I really appreciate your time and your discussion about it. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
thank you so much, Ev, for the conversation. And it was great. Appreciate it. All
Thank
right.
you for the time.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
All right.